Okay, Eric, here we go again. Continuing exploration of the hidden treasures of Mouse Heaven. Today we're going to tackle the books for the third time. And this time we're going to get it right. So the first thing to do is remove this gorgeous sculpture from Fantasia, which is entirely made of wood and utterly exquisite. I'll put it over here on the chair, get it out of the way. And then I'm going to disclose how one accesses this showcase. Hopefully this will work smoothly. Yes. Okay, here on the top shelf is a very nice Art Deco French Mickey Mouse tea set, at least the business end of it. And moving right down to the next shelf, we come to this whole case. Contains just about virtually all the important Mickey Mouse books. They're all here, right from the very earliest ones. And one of the rarest, and the earliest, I guess, which right hits my eye, is Mickey et Minnie. It's French, very, very rare. And it has these rather charming, quaint illustrations that are more true to the French tradition than they are to vintage Disney. But I believe this book dates from 1931. And lots of reading, and a very few bizarre illustrations, some of which are very strange. Okay, I'm putting this back. By the way, this is another rare book. This is our friend Kenneth Anger's original copy of Hollywood Babylon. It was originally produced in French, and this is probably quite valuable now. I think we figured out a way where these are going to show up better. This is the first Mickey Mouse book, The Adventures of Mickey Mouse, Book 1, and it has this wonderful cover that extends from the front to the back and creates a complete scene. And then inside this book are these fabulous end pages. I mean, these are just amazing. My friend Charles Ponstingle did carvings of these. He's carved the whole book, actually, the cover and these end pages. Captures them. Some of his best work were based on this. This is the second volume of The Adventures of Mickey Mouse. The story is considerably less interesting, but it does have these wonderful covers and a great picture of Minnie on the back. Well, I'm not going to go in shelf by shelf. I'm going to go in order of importance. The next most important book is this, the Mickey Mouse movie stories. And it has what's left of the original dust jacket on it, which is the only place that Minnie Mouse appears. And the contents of this book is actually frame enlargements from the actual cartoons. And so they chronicle Mickey's first few years in the movies with all the scenes and all the stories.
What year is a book like this?
This, I believe, is, well, I think I can tell you. Oh, well, this is a surprise. This is a surprise. I'm glad you asked. This is 1931. That is early. And the second in this series is a little bit more lavish. Beautiful horizontal format and full-page illustrations. There's one for you, Eric. This is your sort of thing. Cool. This will be the Mad Doctor. This book, and these illustrations are what Charles used to carve a beautiful diorama of the Mad Doctor. cut to Charles's diorama. That's next on the agenda. Okay. From here I'm going to show you the first Mickey Mouse annual. These were all made in England. There's a whole series of them every year for very crude and primitive artwork on the cover. Well, this is the full run of the first 10 years of those English annuals. And as we go along, the artwork gets considerably better. The stories, on the other hand, are quite outrageous and at times embarrassingly racist. But those were different times. Here's a copy that's got the original dust jacket, and such as it might be, it's only a piece of wax paper. But you just can't get any better condition than that. And everyone has an interesting spine.
Now, these are from England, right? These aren't the US.
These are all from England. Varying quality of graphics. And oh, I like this one a lot. Here's a lovely one because it's got this wonderful Hawaiian spine on it. But like the story of Disney runs, as time went on, we deteriorated, and good old classic Mickey's gone. And much to my chagrin, it even tended to feature Goofy. You might notice there's not too many Goofies in my collection. Here's another pleasant book. This is the Mickey Mouse Big Book. And this is actually the world's biggest original inscription. The world's biggest Big Little Book. And here it is, the original Big Little Book, with a piece of artwork on the back that my friend Al Horn developed into a wristwatch, a pocket watch. Here we have the Mickey Mouse alphabet book, the first one. There's very nice illustrations of the early characters. I don't think this book has ever been opened. I hear it cracking as I move the pages. This is the first edition, and the second is actually more interesting, and it's actually much more attractive than the other one. It has some amazing illustrations in it. Among them is this one of the Cannibal Chief, which is a Disney character that's, might I say, little known today. And to think they banned Brer Rabbit, well, goodbye, Cannibal Chief. Anyway, my friend Sonny Hadfield did a fabulous animated sculpture of this, so I'm showing it to you for that reason. And this book and this illustration was the source of it. Many books here. They're all here. Elmer Elephant, The Peculiar Penguins, all based on 7-minute shorts. Mickey Mouse in Giantland. Suffice it to say, they're not all visual knockouts, but they're all here.
These are from the 30s and 40s?
From the 30s, nothing from the 40s. This is a very nice book, Mickey Mouse Stories. Again, this is again based on the movie stories. And then here we come to the pop-up books. Well, of course, the Mickey Mouse pop-up is iconic. And that's over in the coffee table. And in a minute, we're going to go over there and take a look at them. But for now, here's the Minnie Mouse pop-up. And it's pretty amazing. And each of these have 3 pop-ups. The ones that open the book, the ones that close the book, and the elaborate one that will always be in the middle of the book.
And turn to the side a little.
And this is quite interesting because of the technology. Minnie's skirt blossoms out to full size.
Really cool.
And the line quality in these pop-up books is just amazing. There's a thick, thin line used throughout, which is at its most beautiful. And this is the Silly Symphonies pop-up book. And let's see if I can find a pop-up to illustrate that. Well, here. This is from Babes in the Woods. And my friend John Fawcett actually did a whole art show at the OK Harris Gallery based upon photographing close-ups of areas from this book. The mushrooms in the corner of this page, for instance, they just have a wonderful line quality to them. And then among my favorites is King Neptune. Look at the waves. Can you see that?
Yeah.
This isn't a well-known cartoon. I mean, this is essentially stars a naked fat man who ends up drowning a ship full of rapists who try to molest the topless mermaids. And the end of the cartoon shows him laughing hysterically as he stomps on the boat and its inhabitants on the bottom of the sea. Not one that's usually seen these days. Okay. Here's a travesty. This is the Mickey Mouse pop-up as redrawn by German individuals. And this is Mickey Mouse. I swear, at the circus, I swear it looks like a swastika type. And somehow they managed to redraw this in such a fashion as to just manage to take something that was quite delicate and beautiful. Some of the illustrations are original, but they managed to just do whatever was required here to make it dark and ominous and somewhat ugly, but the original of this is quite beautiful, and you'll see it in the coffee table. Les Trois Petits Couchons. And this is something like this was made for Mickey, but can you get this?
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
This is.
Pages don't look very thick. They look really thin.
They're quite thin,
Pop-up.
considering what's sandwiched in between there. Oh, this is a wild one. Can you see this? Okay, here we go.
Delicate, fragile.
It's amazing that things like this survive. That a kid didn't. Here's a rare scene where the wolf has disguised himself as a Jewish peddler. Another scene which miraculously disappeared from the cartoon. Well, actually, the animation's still there, but now he calls himself working his way through college. Where in the original he says, "Oh, you wanna let me come in and show you some brushes?" And this, he's in.
Look at the range of emotions in that.
Little
Things are
pig.
Incredible.
Little pig. Let me in.
That's really beautiful. Great engineering.
I think that's the last. And here they are celebrating. Celebrating, hopefully, yes. Celebrating. And on the wall there's a picture that says Mammy. Perhaps it should say Hammy. Anyway, she's nursing little piglings. What's this going to be? This is a French version of a pop-up, and has less pop-ups, and they most certainly, well, this one's not complete, but they do leave something to be desired once you've seen the American versions. It's not bad. Let me show you a book that was meant an awful lot to me. This was the Bible of my childhood. This incredible volume, which was in the Detroit Library. And, well, it was supposed to be in the Detroit Library. It spent most of its time at home with me. The library card is simply filled with my name. And there were very few illustrations in it, but it told how the films were made. Bits of original art. And there was one page. Okay, and here's the payoff page. A beautiful picture of Pinocchio and the French marionette. And this is a page that literally changed my life. I've told the story before, but I'll just make it short and say that a girl down the street from me, an older girl when I was 4, had taken the book out of the Detroit Library, and she painted that picture, big, and it was so gorgeous. And at that moment, I knew that I would one day be an artist. And this is the book, and this is the picture. It's amazing. No, but it looked just incredible to me. No, I was not often in neighbors' homes in those days, because I was the only Jewish kid in a neighborhood of virulent racists. Anti-Semitism was never more rampant than my neighborhood. Well, down the street was the Shrine of the Little Flower, and that was the headquarters of the Bishop Conklin, who broadcast to the entire world anti-Semitism. And that was...
How far away from your place was this?
A block and a half. It was this huge tower, like a giant phallus. It was erected to God's glory, and hanging off the side of it was Jesus Christ in person, glaring and looking stern and ominous. And didn't look very friendly to me. Well, I guess he was pissed off. He'd just been crucified.
Oh my.
But nonetheless, okay, what else have we got here? Here's an interesting volume. This is one of those movie press books that the studios would produce each year. And this one was the most lavish. Every trick that they could come up with in terms of technical embellishment was thrown into this book. The problem is none of it was like working correctly. So we have this lucite cover that allows you to look through to the cleverly misplaced second page, which is all laminated with foil. As you know, the line that comes to, in terms of how good all this works, is, I might use the expression, foiled again. Now this, although it doesn't show, every little dot on the marquee was printed in gold. And so it goes on and on with one trick after another till you get to the most elaborate page in the book. See, some of them are actually printed on gold foil. Each one represents a movie from that year, which I think was probably 1930. I don't know, 5 or 7, I don't know. And then you get to this elaborate production of Disney, which is actually printed on cells, except that too doesn't work. because the things that are in front should be behind. In other words, these should be overlapping this, but they're one step removed. But nonetheless, it was an attempt. It didn't quite come together, but it's probably the only copy of this that anyone's ever heard of.
You ever been tempted to undo the spine and reset it?
You can't, because the way it's drawn, it doesn't work.
Oh, really?
Because some of the things on the second thing are both behind and in front of the figures of Mickey and Minnie. Mickey Mouse Book 3, Mickey Mouse Book 4, fairly rare. These are reproduced from the comic strips, the daily strip, which at the very beginning were drawn by Of Iwerks. And Book 1 and 2 are upstairs in frames. Okay, this brings us to some major stuff. And here it is, all wrapped in plastic, the second best book in all creation. This is the Wizard of Oz Waddle book, complete and mint. The waddles are all stuck back there in a page, in an envelope, never been opened. And the final pages, this book appeared in my grade school with all the waddles missing. It's actually the Denslow copy, but what it did have were these diagrams that showed what the waddles were like, how to assemble them, and how they operated. And I stared at this page when we were supposed to be studying English literature. I stared at this page endlessly for days on end. Committed to memory. If sheer willpower could make them materialize, they would have appeared, the waddles on my desk. But here they are. I got one, the Waddle book.
Is that displayed anywhere? The complete
I have it displayed over there in the showcase, and I can guarantee you, you're looking at it right now as I've dubbed it into this film. And
through the magic of film.
through the magic of, yeah. And then here, of course, is the ultimate. This is the Mickey Mouse Waddle book, complete and unpunched and mint.
This is the most rare of the Mickey
This
books?
is the rarest of the Mickey books. In some, well, I have one punched out and one that's unpunched.
And in the background we have punch.
That's, yes, Eric, it's a good one. And then afterwards we'll drink some. This handle put Pluto and Minnie Mouse. And long story about this book. I had another copy, and we were involved. My friendship with Maurice Sendak, in a way, revolved around Waddle books. The one that you'll soon be photographing in the showcase there is identical. I had a second copy of that, and I traded it to Maurice for that spiral staircase. And this, the unpunched one, was a trade that went on for years and years, and in the end, he traded me the star in the other room. And this is the Waddle book, the very Waddle book that was lifted by the sticky fingers of their archivist, David Smith of the Disney Studios. When I met David, well, a very unpleasant occasion that was, in 1968 he came to my apartment, and while he was there, well, the first words he said when he entered the door, looking at the wall, which looked like the one in the other room here, he said to me, "Is that all there is?" So, I mean, what could I expect? He was from the Disney Studios, and I figured he'd seen it all, which really wasn't true, and I had such a bad eye that he couldn't see what he was looking at. Anyway, he, I said to him, "David, is there any chance you could ever get a Waddle book?" He said, "Oh, no, the Disney Studios only has 2 Waddle books, and they would never part with one. Okay. A year later, he sold John Fawcett a Woggle-Bug for $50.
What?
Yeah, along with a Silly Symphony pop-up book for $50, which in those days was probably worth $50, but the Woggle-Bug was priceless. So it took me years, but I traded the Woggle-Bug away from John for a whole room full of Lars dolls. John, in the meantime, had punched it out. It had been unpunched. And here it is. So the minute John got this book, I got back to David Smith and I said, David, can you get me a Woggle-Bug? And he said, he had bad memory. He said, oh no, the Disney Studios only has one Woggle-Bug, and they would never part with it. Well, I got the other one. This is it. And this is what it looks like when it's all set up.
And you had 3 more on top of that?
I've had some more, and I ended up trading the most mint with an unusual ramp to Maurice Sendak, a trade that took all of 20 years to consummate. And it ended up with the star there in the other room.
And how did you come across the other 3?
Well,
Flea markets, or?
Yeah, one I found along with the Wizard of Oz at a flea market at Brimfield one year.
Did they know what they had, or they were just selling it cheap?
They knew what they had, but they didn't know how highly it was revered by some people, and myself primarily.
Wow.
But no, it just, how did I come about it? Well, Eric, it's destiny. That's the magic ingredient. You're either going to have something or you're not going to have it. So I celebrate and thankful for the things I have. Never minded what someone else had that I didn't have. Simply the workings of fate, and fate was always kind to me. The Woggle-Bug, the ramp, the band, the whole thing. Okay, I would suggest that we move away from this cabinet, and before we go upstairs, let's go over to the coffee table and you'll see the full repertoire of the pop-up books through the glass. Okay, here we are at the coffee table where all the pop-up books are on display. Over here we have King Neptune, and as we move along is Minnie Mouse, and then well, the reflections are going crazy. And over here we have Mickey Mouse in King Arthur's court. I've actually got 3 of these. In the center is Little Orphan Annie. And here's the famous jousting scene from King Arthur. Around the other way. And see if I can peek in this little hole in here. Yes, and there's Babes in the Woods. The Wicked Witch. It's really Hansel and Gretel. And over this way, one last peek. Not easy to see. I love this coffee table. And here it is, the entire coffee table with all the pop-up books on display. And up here on the wall above it is the glorious Mickey star that Maurice traded me for the Woggle-Bug. So beautiful, it shines above mouse heaven and bathes my life in magic. Okay, here we are at one of the major bookcases, and I can't go ahead of time and pre-plan this. I'm just going to start and work along the line and pick out books that I think are interesting. So here we go. This is a rarity. Everyone knows the work of Charles Addams. But this is a book that isn't about his cartoons, and it isn't about the Addams family. It's about his collection of macabre memorabilia. And it's just full of exceedingly strange things. His very personal collection of, you wonder where his morbid ideas came from? It came from the kind of stuff you find in the pages of this book.
Did he write in that as well?
A few scant captions. In a sense, this is the Charles Addams collection. But this is a very rare book, practically unknown. Okay, I'll put that back. Moving right along. Oh, curious. This isn't old. It's a Neiman Marcus Christmas catalog from 1981. But the cover of it featured this amazing piece of Disney graphics. And I loaned this book to my friend Charles Ponstingle, and he used it as a basis for his incredible carving of this same scene.
Just the front cover?
Oh yeah, the rest of it is just a Neiman Marcus catalog. For some strange reason, this amazing piece of original 30s Disney art ended up on the cover.
Have you seen that?
My friend Jeff Runn produced all of these. He was Betty Page's agent for a number of years. And so here's some of her more famous pinups. I didn't buy that, he gave it to me, folks. He says. This is the original American edition of Pinocchio with the original illustrations by Messino. Vastly different from this, and the illustrations run the gamut of line work to full color to elaborate full color. This is actually,
find out what age that is?
I can't think of the year, but 19. It's early, but this American edition was probably in the 19 teens or the 1920s. Here is, this is the sheet music to Crazy Cat Ballet. And the illustrations here were all done by George Harriman. Music was John Alden Carpenter, and it's really very pleasant. I have a recording of it. This is the whole score. And ironically, it's illustrated. The production must have been incredible, because Harriman himself painted the background, and the costumes were enormous and outrageous. But the background was on an endless roller, so the scene, like in the strip itself, was always changing.
It was a play? Is that what
It was a ballet.
a ballet?
Yeah. Short, only about 20 minutes long. This is it, the book that colored my childhood. Library class every single day for an hour. I spent that hour staring at this volume because the art in it was actual Disney studio art. There was scenes from the film itself, but all these preliminary drawings that the artist generated in the studio in preparation for the film. And if you looked very carefully, you could see how they were constructed. The circles and squares and the things that made them up was all visible. So I felt if I looked at this long enough and studied it, I'd be able to understand how the films were made. Look at, you can just see the geometry. Fresh, amazing drawings. God. I don't think I ever read the story. I just looked at the pictures endlessly. This is a very handsome volume, actually. I was never a huge fan of the Three Caballeros, but boy, is that delicious or what? Delicious, delicious, wonderful art. Not so much the art inside, but the cover was amazing. This is definitely a book that had a huge influence in me. Artsy Bashef, if you pronounce it right. His artwork was like incredibly surreal and macabre. And it embodied a certain feeling of the war in industrial America.
I've never heard of that before.
You should really study this guy because his art is right up your alley.
What age would he be? What years?
Be 1940s, they're a little later, maybe 50-ish.
Significant.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
The element of Salvador Dali.
Yeah. Very influential on generations now.
Okay, these little pamphlets are exceedingly rare. This is the Mickey Mouse campaign book, 1932 or something. It gives you the whole thing for Mickey Mouse. All the articles, all the pickup art. Product promotions. This all came with this. Here's a letter from the Dixon Company. And then as you get towards the back, samples of the comic strips, articles to pick up and reproduce. And then and here's the original ad for the big Mickey Mouse paper mache Old King Cole display. And here, let me get there. Here. Publicity. Stuff that's never been seen. These were things to hang on doorknobs. Swipe art. And here we see the posters as they existed at that point in time.
But these would all be in color, though.
Oh yeah, but here they are. This is the catalog, and one could order these. That's one of the rarest official Disney things. Then we have the licensed catalogs, and they just 1934. Boy, make you crazy. Actually went to the Disney studios and they allowed me to photograph these way back in 19.
Is that a Waddle book? Early days?
This was the ad for the Waddle book. It appeared this year, 1934, and that was it. So send you crazy. The bicycle. I mean, this is the Book of Dreams.
Now, would they come out with the Waddle book every year, just keep reproducing it? Or
It was only produced 1 year.
In 1934?
Yep.
That's it? Wow.
Like much of this merchandise. And then the 1930 catalog had introduced color. Bread. But these were the products for that year. And the Waddle book was gone already. But the main product for that year was, ta-da, the Mickey Mouse Circus Train. That was the ultimate extravaganza.
Is that a paper toy or tin?
It's a combination of tin and little Sirocco figures and a paper tent. paper gas station, a paper truck, a paper sign, Mickey and Minnie rushing to the circus.
Do you have that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I feel like I've seen it, but I can't be for sure.
It's down in the showcase outside the bathroom.
Not much in there you don't have, right?
Much in here I don't have. Look at this. Look at this. The parade, a few of the
Even the catalog.
old king.
Look at.
Oh, absolutely. It's fabulous. God, the stuff that dreams are made of. And here we go up to 1936. And it's already still good. Donald was in there messing up things. But still good. The hand cars. Circus train was gone. Marx Brothers toys, the graphic, amazing things. The books, the Christmas lights, balloons. Boy, wonderful. Okay. Here's another movie press book, Columbia Showman. Important. This is your copy of the Columbia Yearbook. Do not destroy. Okay. Like as if I would. Come on. And this has always, these books have all the movies for the year for Columbia Studios. And then you're eventually going to get to Buck Jones, Tim McCoy. And here we go. Mickey Mouse and the Silly Symphonies.
Interesting color combination there.
Yeah. And then next page is his newly concocted competition, Crazy Cat, who comes back without the bricks to sound with a voice exactly like Mickey Mouse. Try to compete with Mickey. And somewhere in here, I think that's it. Somewhere in here, we get Scrappy. And there might be Silly Symphonies, and there may not. Okay, I'll leave it at that. That's a bad transition, I know. American Heritage with an incredible nice picture of Mickey on the cover. It's probably one of the few new Mickey images I actually liked. So, okay, I'm going to go down one shelf. Okay. What we have here is the whole deal. This is all the peripheral, fragile, incidental coloring books, punch-out books, things that are valuable simply because they're valueless. The fact that these things weren't just used briefly and thrown away is something of a miracle. And I wouldn't even know where to start, but here's the beautiful Ferdinandable cutouts. The artwork on these things just doesn't get slicker and nicer than this. All the matadors and picadors and toreadors were actually caricatures of the artists in the Disney animation department. I think this guy was Ward Kimball. No, seriously, they can be identified. Nice artwork. I don't know why I have this, but it was quite clever because the book made Howdy Doody marionettes that actually were on super, super heavy cardboard and could be strung and operated on strings. And there's Flubadub.
Did it come with a little theater?
No, I don't think so. Here's instructions how to make a theater yourself out of a card table, put through a doorway sideways.
Interesting. Mom's gonna love that.
Mom might like it better if she didn't have to watch the puppet show. Snow White scrapbook. A very lovely cover with the Tangren illustration on it. Delicious shades of blue.
What's in there?
No, it was
literally
just a blank scrapbook.
Ah, interesting.
Okay. So here's a whole run of Mickey Mouse coloring books. This was rather a special one and clever one because you see the die-cut Mickey on the front and the back.
Mm.
And inside, some kid's been coloring them. Wasn't me. This is one of the later ones. By later, I mean probably 1935 or 36. Well, this is kind of interesting. This is a scrappy promotional catalog. And it includes a scrappy theater to punch out and assemble, fit in this envelope. All kinds of posters and stuff related to it. And then there's setup display, which I have over in the other showcase. These were only distributed to the industry. Oh. This is actually a rare book. This is the Wizard of Oz Woggle-Bug book by L. Frank Baum. And this is considered part of Oziana.
That's incredible. Huge.
The Woggle-Bug, I'll put him there for now. Here's the 1939 World's Fair coloring book. Amazingly abstract, all these images. Oh my goodness. Here is the official. There were many, but this was the official and the best of the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs books, storybooks. And well, here it is. This is my cell.
Tell us more.
Well, I actually have the actual cell from this particular scene. I think it's the most popular scene. I think it's the ultimate scene, the scene that sums up. It was all part of the deal with the Bambergers when we did the Mickey Mouse exhibition in 1973. This thing was over across the river in an antique shop in Newburgh, believe it or not. Here's a lovely brownie book with a horrible cover, but the inside are all these fabulous scenes of brownies in group shots. Very early color printing. Fabulous
Brownies
stuff.
mainly books, or they were also comics?
Well, they were the first licensed characters. I mean, they were the very beginning of it. And they were in novelties, and I think the pages appeared in a magazine, actually. Here's another early Mickey coloring book. It is beautiful. And true to form of the earlier ones, they actually had full color pages in them. So a kid could get inspired in terms of how to color the black and white pages. It's curious because this would be an expensive book to print. And coloring books ultimately became the least expensive books because they never had any color in them. But in the early days, they did. Here's the thing I love. The Rainbow Dolls. Boy, it was such a... by Doris Rudy, whoever the hell she was. But boy, this thing is... but this was dramatic.
These are paper dolls, right?
They're paper dolls with all of their paraphernalia and all these strange characters, all colored, shaded, either carefully by hand or with an airbrush, I'm not sure which. Bizarre characters. In the middle is a double page spread of all their costumes.
Look at that color.
Look at the color and the shapes and all. It's just it's
magic.
Even abstract, it radiates something amazing. More characters.
Almost black light before black light.
Yeah, it's got something about it. Some magic is exuding from the pages. 40 big pages of Mickey Mouse. This was basically the Mickey Mouse magazine, issue 1, but they then reproduced it as a book that they could sell in the store for a lot of the color, and a lot of the stuff is removed. A caricature of Jimmy Durante. Follow the dots. Pluto the Pup's Bark Encounter. Tick-Tock. The Tick-Tock Man of Oz. Doesn't look a damn thing like him, but this was based on a Broadway musical. Book and lyrics by L. Frank Baum. Music by Louis Gottschalk? Oh, that's amazing. I have no idea. Here's a copy of Really Rosie, the album that Maurice autographed for us. Jamel, Eunice, Samantha, and Toots, enjoy. Maurice Sendak, December 1975. Yeah, Carole King. We were there for we were with Maurice for the television debut of this. He invited a group of friends to his apartment in New York to see it. He loved it too. Oh. My favorite movie, The Thief of Baghdad, was a coloring book. Book to color. Oh, God. Nice cover, anyway. This is pretty desirable. The Comics Paper Doll cutout book.
Wow.
Blondie. Pauline, her pals, Dumb Dora. Boy, when the new woke generation, this wouldn't have gone over very well. God. Annie Rooney. It's Popeye. The Cats and Jammer Kids.
If all you had was just books, it'd still be an amazing collection. Good stuff.
Well, a collection or an accumulation. I sort of accumulated these books. This is an interesting book. It's from my childhood, and it has the standard icky golden book touch on it that I despised as a kid. But in it, we do see actual studio drawings from movies that never got made.
Wow.
But these were all on the drawing board at the Disney studio through the picture frame by Hans Christian Andersen, very much like Alice in Wonderland. This is stories and studio art that never took place.
Is this the one that's got Alice in Wonderland in it?
It is. And there's pre-Song of the South. The Emperor's
Almost looks
New
like they didn't
Clothes.
use any of the original art from the finished film. It looks like all preliminary.
It was all preliminary. Here's Lady and the Tramp, which in these days was just the story of Lady and the two bad cats. There was no tramp in it. And here's early Alice. I mean, these are amazing. Dark, and kind of scary.
Yeah, really.
This is how the film was first conceived. It's really scary. And here's the origin of Mr. Toad, The Wind in the Willows.
Early, one of the first ones. Kid, it wasn't that.
Peter Pan, this predates Peter Pan. Peter Pan and the Pirates.
Wow.
Here's a early visualization of Captain Hook. The Square World. A Happy Valley, it was called. This became Mickey and the Beanstalk from an English folk tale. So this funny little kids book was sort of like a crystal ball that showed a glimpse of things to come. It's good looking. Check that out. That's pretty handsome. Radio guide. Mickey Mouse on NBC Sunday. I'm getting slightly immersed in this and starting to daydream here. But I'll show you this and then move to a different shelf. This is another press book. This one for Columbia Pictures.
These are beautiful.
There's going to be, clearly there will be a Mickey page in here somewhere. Well, here we have Crazy Cat. And I don't think he would get billing before Mickey, so let's go backwards. Yes, there's Mickey's page. And here's this crazy, silly Symphony page.
Freaky.
My God. That definitely does not look like official Disney art. This is interesting. The elegant volume. The Rears and Robust catalog. Spring, summer, fall, and winter. Hang me up in the castle of the half moon. This is to decorate your outhouse. And it actually comes with a screw-in hook to screw into the wall.
What?
And then as you enlighten yourself with the magic and mystique and the mythology of toilet paper, there's a story called The Roll of Horror. All articles about potty time.
What was this for again?
This was to hang in your outhouse, and the whole book is chock full of toilet paper, and many of which is printed with a story on it. And in those days, a Sears and Roebuck catalog usually was the one you got free. This you had to pay for. But some of the pages emulated advertisements. Bob says an old-fashioned you do.
So people would use this in place of toilet paper.
It was toilet
In
paper.
those days, that was. Wow.
Oh, but the Sears and Roebuck catalog was notoriously used as toilet paper. This room, look, it comes with things to hang on the door. It comes with blotters. Here's some various different shades. Here's a gag. You see, it's a carbon paper.
And the whole thing's a gag.
The whole thing is a gag, which is guaranteed to make a gag.
Oh my gosh! I didn't know that's exactly that. So this was before toilet paper was invented. They actually just used.
Well, before they could afford toilet paper.
Oh.
I mean, when you couldn't afford toilet paper, but this gives you an ample supply of. It's sure as hell ain't like Cottonelle, and it's certainly not like, you know. I think Papa Bear would say, "We can't stay here." Here we go. The end. Dreamland. And this book is entirely made up of cutout characters that you could put in place.
Fantastic.
So a kid could more or less create their own scene with all the removable characters. You could dress it up just any way you wanted to.
And you didn't push through onto the other page.
No. Look at, I love this one. This is so lyrical. Kid sitting on the moon to have her photograph shot. Okay. Here's a wonderful book that captures the essence of the golden age of Paris, France. These are from the French magazine La Vie Parisienne. This is essentially what life in Paris was during the Belle Epoque. And the pages are only printed on one side because they're quite elegantly done. Quite spectacular. And really quite naughty, really, without ever being vulgar. This is what I mean about I should have put a paper marker first.
That's right.
Is Intimates, this is called. This is kind of like Playboy. Oh. Well, this is extraordinary. This is something that's amazing. This is a page from a French magazine that's crumbling, but it goes together. It's satirical, but quite beautiful. And it constructs a genuine brothel with animations, so the gentlemen climb the stairs and all the girls are on display and display their wares, while the owners of the place sit in their little study and read the newspaper.
How do the men animate?
On a conveyor belt. It all explains somewhere here how to construct it on a little crank and whatever, where this is deteriorating outrageously. Let me just look for a minute. And here's a page I definitely need to study more. This explains how to eat asparagus and bananas.
Oh, of course. You're having banana asparagus dinner.
It's etiquette, you see, etiquette.
Banana asparagus party. You wouldn't want to know not how to eat it.
And this is their dream, le rêve, their dreams. Oh. Somehow when I was in Paris, it wasn't quite the same. Wasn't quite the same. The Paris sky. Again, I'm getting lost in reverie. But it was that kind of magic that brought me there in the first place. And of course, here is this famous Eros magazine, volume number 4, that I should really clean up, with Eunice Birnkrant's aim at it, with all these rare photographs of Marilyn. This really is a collector's item. We had originally the whole run of this magazine, but it was only volume 4 that somehow we retained. And here is this amazing book, this amazing thing. Reineke Fuchs' story of Renard the fox. And it's just full of gorgeous actual engravings. Every one of these was hand engraved and hand pressed in place. The illustrations are incredible. This was Disney in the era before there was such a thing as stylized comic characters. In those days, fantasy was rendered in realistic terms.
This was 1800s or the early 1900s.
Actually, there is a date in this somewhere. 1846.
Good Lord. Almost 200 years old.
This book is almost, so no wonder it's falling apart.
180 years old.
180 years old. Boy, that's pretty incredible, isn't it? Yes. I think that this is my favorite. This depicts an orgy, a bacchanal. But it's amazing.
Extraordinary detail. I wonder how big the original is.
Oh, these are actual size.
Wow.
These are the engravings pressed. These are done by hand, and they're pressed on the pages of this book.
Can you believe that?
So this book was all assembled by hand, no question about it.
That's incredible.
200 years ago, this was bookmaking. Here we see Renard is being interviewed by the king. He's being rewarded with a medal. And Renard and his wife live happily ever after with little baby foxes. Boy. This book is one of those objects which I've owned for 50 years and watched it age along with myself. When I first got this, the pages were all tightly bound. These are the, this is the right one, okay. These are the English weekly Mickey Mouse magazines. They began in 1936. And the extraordinary thing about them is the complex covers. The inside is part English, part Disney. All redrawn Disney. Nothing is the official Disney thing. But the covers were everything. Every cover, one after another, was epic.
Now, this is not an actual book. This is a collection, a scrapbook of someone's
No,
collection.
this is the entire run for several years, but they've been professionally, commercially bound by. This isn't a book that was published. This is somebody that took it to a bookbinder and had it bound. It was not unusual at all to buy books that weren't books. So if someone liked a particular publication, they could have them bound, just as this was. Well, the illustrations, every one of them is amazing. And every one. This was a weekly publication. One of these came out every week. 2D every Friday. So somebody generated the art like this, and it's always the same artist every single week. Okay, last but not least in this cabinet is this Last Chance for 1928 Profits, Our Drummer, the Butler Brothers catalog in New York City. And this is just incredible. It had all the stuff in it. All the great stuff, all the novelties and the knickknacks and the Hazarai from the 1920s, from the time before you and I were born. Clearly, this is where Santa Claus shopped.
And would you have to pay and order these catalogs, or were they sent out to people, or they're in the stores to pick up?
You know, I honestly don't know that. I don't think they'd be in stores because they were obviously in direct competition with stores. But, oh, this showcase, I'm rattling it. But here's the tin toys. I have many of these tin toys. I have this. I have the Funny Face, which was really Harold Lloyd. The Daredevil Flyer. I love that toy. And here's the Felix toys. Here's the Trudeville trolley down here in the corner. Oh, and here's Oscar Hitt's Highway Henry. $4.
It's pretty expensive, huh?
A dozen. $3.95 a dozen.
Nice.
This was the catalog where the stores got their stuff. This was not for the children and their parents. No, this was for stores to buy their stuff. Gee, I'll take a dozen Tunafel trolleys any day. Oh my God. Clearly they're cheaper by the dozen. Here's your lovely Lindy, our Lindy novelty doll, $18.75 a dozen. That was expensive. Mm-hmm. And here's the 1928 improved erector. I could use that. Yeah, these days too.
Now I know why you want to pull that catalog. You had that joke.
No, I didn't have that joke.
Your back pocket.
I did not have that joke sitting in my back pocket. Trust me. You know, long before the alien appeared in the movies, long before then, I was a huge fan of Giger. I had a whole library of his art. Incredible artist. And of course, the alien, you see the influence, but this predates the alien. Okay, well, this is kind of interesting. And kind of sticky, too. So this is another case where somebody had something commercially bound, but what they bound here was the small miniature-sized version of the comics for the year 1929. And these are every Sunday comic strip. Comic strips came in two sizes. They came, here we have Gasoline Alley, the Gumps, Harold Teen, Little Orphan Annie, a compendium of lost artwork. All original. Pretty amazing. Well, Eric, as we're doing Hidden Mouse Heaven, Volume 4, let me show you something else that's hidden. Okay, here we go. This is what hidden is all about. Up here. gonna have to move this rug out of the way. I'll put it over here. And I'll have to get down on my hands and knees right here. Oh, it's actually gonna come out of here. Amazing. Okay. Here we go. Here we have, right on the top, Dreams of a Rarebit Fiend by Winsor McKay. And here we are. Now you can bring the camera over and get it any way you want to. But here's the Tunaville Floats. Many Tunavilles. Cats and Jammer Kids on the opposite side. All of these is a big run of all the characters. Jigs and Maggie. Mutt and Jeff.
What do these age to? The 20s?
Probably the late 20s. Some of them, Rarebit Fiend would be about 1905. Happy Hooligan. Mutt and Jeff again. They go on and 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 on.
Did you get all these at once, or you
I
picked these all up?
got them all at once at the local Stormville flea market for $85.
Wow.
That is that. And back under the bed again, where I'm sleeping on these, and they'll probably be there when I breathe my last. We flip through those comic pages quickly, but in this drawer, I actually have the best pages. I've sorted through them, those things that are underneath the floor. And I really sorted these with great, great care. And here, I can put them here on the desk. So here we are, Little Nemo in Slumberland. Here's all Felix the Cat, Otto Mesmer at his best. Where the styling was just at the height of his prowess, all of his animals, friends. Many, many Felix comic strips, among the very best he ever did. So in that bottom drawer, this is yellow. It's actually the acetate that's yellow. The pages are amazing. These are Little Nemo from the very beginning. Well, I didn't realize these had yellowed like this, but that's the ravages of time. But look at the condition that the strips are in. Oh, they're just amazing. Crazy Cat. There's Haiti. Scraps. That's easy come, easy go. And more gorgeous Little Nemo. And that drawer down there is just simply full of these. Oh, wait a minute. Keep it there. Keep it there, because there's one more that's... Well, there's tons more, actually. But here's another that is such a beauty. My God, look at that one. That's amazing. Parade of characters. It's amazing. Okay, that's kind of it. For as far as I can see going right now.